Hello, welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead. With me today is Greg Soulje, meteorologist Greg Soulje, and he's back with a midweek forecast. Welcome, Greg. Great to have you with us today.
Great to be with you as always, Sarah, on a, as usual, as you would expect, kind of a busy period of weather from the plains into the Midwest and likely to stay that way here for the foreseeable future, just like we've been talking about on the big old TV show on radio and certainly with you and I in these get-togethers.
Yeah, it was supposed to be some storms that went through last night up kind of Wisconsin way.
Yep.
I don't know. In northern Illinois, I think got some. Nothing like here down just west of the Chicagoland area. Kind of got a lot of gray sky and a lot of dark clouds. Couple sprinkles, but nothing too severe. Lots of wind. The wind's never a good thing, but
yeah.
All right.
And that windy weather pattern, usually testimony to this range of temperatures that we have across the country, and no change from that as we continue. We think we're kind of moving in already to an El Nino setup. We'll discuss that in the next few days, the next few weeks, and probably in our mid-May live stream. But in the meantime, in the short term, we'll take a look at the maps and charts here, and welcome to a Tuesday as we wind our way out of April here over the next couple. And the headlines, well, the threat for severe weather, and we've seen already a couple of stronger storms south of I-70 to southern Illinois. This morning, some reports of hail down south of Effingham and some quick 1 to 2 inch downpours, some localized flooding there. So some of those same wetter areas of the southern Corn Belt, I don't think there's been much progress, but there has been progress, would you believe? And I think a lot of these numbers are keyed on parts of western Illinois, northwest Illinois, parts into Iowa, the western Corn Belt area. So while we have a range of temperatures and there's more rain in the forecast, there's been more progress still made. 24% of the corn, 18% of the beans. Now that's nationally speaking. That's the entire Corn Belt back into the Corn Palace, eastern Nebraska, into Ohio. So 24% on the corn side, 18% on the bean side. They have been planted as of the 27th of April. And those are just a couple of percentage points actually ahead of the game. And I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of those are focused in some of the central, west central, and westernmost areas of the Corn Belt, where there's rain coming back in their forecast as well as the rest of the eastern Corn Belt. And here is that severe weather threat. Boy, it was ramping its way and ramped up big time. Twin Cities to north of Waterloo, back up in and around Wausau, Appleton, Eau Claire, out towards Lambeau. I think they've wound down that NFL draft thing, thank goodness, because there's been widespread 1 to 3 inch rain. They had severe weather beat up and tornado activity through much of northern, north central, and western Wisconsin into the Twins and areas of northern Iowa yesterday. So there's some cleanup and assessment going on there. The severe weather threat is a enhanced risk. That's level 3 out of 5 for the Buckeye State, southeast Indiana, and once again redeveloping into the southern plains. We're getting more and more of these weather systems to propagate and build their moisture into the central and southern high plains areas, roughly the western half of the plains. So, there's been beneficial rains. There's been relief. We had a 1 to 2 inch rain come through, including some snow into some of those livestock areas in the western Dakotas, Montana, and points north and northeast. So spring grains, some moisture and drought relief there. But we still have an area, and that's roughly Nebraska Panhandle, western third to half of Kansas, Oklahoma, Panhandle, and West Texas cotton, but getting better, where we still have some issues regarding 30, 33, 35% of the winter wheat rated poor and very poor. But that is a dramatic improvement even there. And I suspect next week they'll get some rain even in the worst drought areas, not to end it. And it's another trip off. Are we moving quicker in an El Nino setup around here? That actually parts of the southwestern U.S., California, Oklahoma, Texas, those high plains areas likely to get some rainfall. There's the severe weather prospects tomorrow into Oklahoma, the Arklatex, and in through Texas. We talk about wet grounds beget a wet weather pattern, dry grounds beget a drier one. And once again, we're just putting moisture back in the atmosphere in these saturated grounds over the southern plains, each and every weather system. Meanwhile, we've been having systems come through, but they're not enough to get any significant drought relief because it's been very warm. It's been hot. They've had some early season heat in the Carolinas, Georgia, the southeastern states. So while there's been showers and thunder and heavy and severe and all that stuff in the Tennessee Valley, mid-April, Delta and lower Mississippi Valley ongoing there, we still have about 60% of the topsoil moisture short in Florida. The rainy season will begin here. It begins typically June 1 down there, those afternoon showers and thunderstorms that build in off the Atlantic or the Gulf. So hopefully without the lightning issues, we'll get some moisture down there, but still 48% short in North Carolina, 47% short in Georgia. Those two areas have made rapid progress in cotton, sorghum, and the bean side of things as well. And areas on those irrigated areas that we're speaking of here, some pretty good progress made in through California with regard to cotton and rice, and Arizona as well. 43% of the intended acreage has been planted there. And there's moisture in the forecast for those folks. Late season stuff. You typically see the rainy season begin to wind down here by April 1. So we get a little bonus weather system in that part of the country with its drought areas in the beige and dark reds and browns. The worst of it, western and south central Texas, the Rio Grande, southwestern states. There will be some significant moisture there. Probably the high plains areas too of Colorado, New Mexico, Oklahoma next week. And again, this is as of last week, late last week. So probably I think this week's drought monitor should show some improvement over those western and southern areas of the Dakota Territory. So on to the maps and charts. Here's a Tuesday afternoon that is going to be a busy one. Amarillo, Dalhart, Lubbock, Oklahoma City, sound familiar? All over again. This time, Oklahoma City on westward, where they have just been beat up on severe weather. That's that red hatched area there. And some pretty good coverage. Showers, thunderstorms in through the Ozarks, south of I-70 into Illinois, up to the Brickyard, and in the southwestern sections of Ohio. Later on tonight, those showers continue on. Severe weather potential into the northeast of New England for a change, but it's going to be roughed up. And this kind of setup usually is a hail-bearing, large hail-bearing type of severe weather outbreak for parts of western and northern Texas and west of Oklahoma City. The beat goes on with more rain and more soaking rains as those thunderstorms wind down in Oklahoma and Texas. They build into the plains. So, and we think with time for your livestock operations down there, while it's a trouble dealing with all these heavy rains and severe weather, some of those areas west of the Wichita, Oklahoma City line again are in line to get some rain and more coming for next week. So I haven't forgot you guys out there in livestock country. Rains back in the western and southern Corn Belt. They are expanding north and eastward and a little more north and eastward, where probably some of the better progress numbers have been made into eastern Illinois, or at least eastern Iowa, northern and western Illinois through by tomorrow evening. And then by Thursday, widespread waves, if you will, of showers, a couple of thunderstorms. Probably I-80 on southward carries the risk for some severe weather Thursday afternoon and evening time. There is the rain forecast for the next 2 days, bullseyed into the Red River Valley of the South. But again, some welcome rains, western Kansas, eastern New Mexico, eastern Colorado. Not snow, probably snow in the highest peaks out there, and a wide swath of, generally speaking, 1.75 on the lower side of the bucket, probably more or less an inch to inch and 3/4 over a wide area of the central, eastern, and central southern Corn Belt areas. Lots of the eastern Corn Belt, he tries to say, in the next couple of days. So that's the story in the short term. So we keep an eye on two weather systems, what we call a split jet stream pattern. When the jet stream, the upper pattern kind of fragments, you've got one branch that's stronger north, you've got another one that's stronger south. That's usually a trip off of an El Nino trying to get going. It may be getting going a little quicker here with at least some of our assessment around here. And it's usually a more dominant trademark in wintertime, a little more diffuse and muddled, if you will, in summertime, but there are spring and summertime, but you can typically pick up on it usually here. And we're beginning to see just that. Rains are there the next 5 days, Oklahoma into the southern and eastern Corn Belt, and cool, showery weather. Southern California, Imperial Valley, San Joaquin Valley, irrigated areas of Arizona, New Mexico, and some of that cattle country in the next week. And this is what we're talking about. There are the charts here for Friday and Saturday. You see that buckle coming across California and the western states. You see that close low. Here we are. It's practically May. It is May. You got the thing coming through California, and it stalls out. It's separated from the main jet stream pattern. And yes, this is kind of a deviation from the longer range stuff, but that's a trademark of these diffuse, muddled, mid to late spring, early summer El Nino patterns. If it were wintertime or fall, easy to detect, but this is a little more muddled. But in any event, that system is cut off as it makes its way Monday and Tuesday in the west. That south wind flow up aloft is two things: significant moisture, significant severe west of the Missouri, western half of the plains, probably the first half of next week. Meanwhile, east of there is your window of opportunity. We know we've been peddling 1 to 2, 2 to 3 we think with this little deviation in El Nino, there is a window of opportunity mid to late next week for maybe a 5 to 7 day window in the central and especially eastern Corn Belt areas when the soil's firm and dry. So give it a couple of days. So you may have at least 5 for progress out there in the eastern Corn Belt locales. Friday, there's a nice circulation and a shot of some chillier air, some patchy frost into Iowa, Northern Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Nothing to do, obviously, anything to crop Saturday morning. Increasing south wind on the backside of that high into the plains Sunday into Monday. And it's just a steady warm up from the Missouri River on eastward, slow day by day, and nary a drop of rain east of the Mississippi, probably for a 5, maybe 7 day window. West of the Mississippi, west of the Missouri in particular, multi-day. Much of next week, you'll be hearing headlines about large hail, damaging wind, tornado activity, downpours of rain, the whole 9 yards. It's going to be a pretty rough one for you livestock operations and managers out on the plains. So keep an eye on, I think as the song goes, the hogs and doggies out there. There's the outlook for hazardous weather. A lot of wind in the southwestern states, as you would expect with that circulation, and significant rain. West Texas, the Rio Grande. Usually when it comes down like this is a flash flood potential that has to be watched as well. With those dry, drought-ridden grounds, you think the rain's going to circulate in, but it just comes down so fast, it runs off, and there you go into the flooding mode. So monitor accordingly with outdoor operations from the central and southern plains into the Rio Grande, where at least Texas and Oklahoma, once again, another probably 4 to 6 inches expected there. That's the 7-day outlook, inclusive of at least this weekend weather system moving out of the Corn Belt. Most of this is the second half of this week into those Corn Belt areas, as mentioned, 3/4 to probably a $1.50. Just keeping an eye on the 6 to 10 day. You always like to see what the competition has to say, and this is a pretty good assessment going forward here as we get on through the early days of May. Then, as we get into beyond the first week to 10 days of the month of May, things do dry out into the eastern Corn Belt. They remain active in the western Corn Belt and the plains, and we think it'll be mid to late May when we get back into the organized rains in those eastern Corn Belt locales. So again, it's a window of opportunity, not a big one, but there should be some decent progress numbers getting shifted east with time. And then after mid-May, I think all bets are off in those eastern Corn Belt locales until we get deeper into summertime over there. There is warm. That's probably 90-degree air, close to it for early May into the upper Midwest, and at least maybe 80-degree weather into the northwestern Corn Belt approaching the mid-stretch of May. A little cooler than average in the southwest and down through Texas and New Mexico, as you would expect in that particular weather system. So Sarah, that's the story here in the old weather office. A little deviation from the longer range, but it should be, generally speaking, of benefit for the plains. It's going to get roughed up down there much of next week, so watch it accordingly. And again, a window of opportunity, a little bigger and broader. This is probably going to be, I think, one of our best ones we're going to have the springtime season. 5, 7, maybe 9 days in some of those eastern Corn Belt locales. So if you can get the back 40 to dry out. The tile lines are running full tilt already, especially in those southeastern and southern areas coming off the rains of this week. Then we should make some good headway in those eastern Corn Belt locales as we get deeper into the first half of the month of May.
Well, that's good news. They need those windows right now, and they can get a lot done in a short period of time, as we all know. So
yeah. And speaking of those winds, by the way, through northern Illinois, I got a couple of reports that popped in here into the weather office, and 45 to 55 mile-an-hour winds, both with the shower activity and the general circulation. Someone told me yesterday, and it was on the air. I think it was out of our Champaign stations, and I think it was a gentleman out of U of I campus, and I forget his name, John or Joe Evans. We talked about it on the radio, but he keeps a track of wind across the Corn Belt in the Midwest. And he, by his statistics, is calling this one of the windier spring times in the Midwest. Now, I would concur from a subjective, qualitative, as they say in the science business standpoint, and I'm sure a lot of other folks can certainly testify to that. But when you get 40s on one side of the Corn Belt, you're in the 80s of the other, no wonder the wind's going to blow at the surface and up aloft quite strong.
Well, and they've had those issues too. I know down in central Illinois with when the winds are so strong, and it just is a blackout from the soil that's blowing across the road, and all those accidents and things. So I'm sure they're monitoring that as close as they can to put out some warnings. I think I did see a warning put out by the National Weather Service.
Yes.
There could be some what do they call it? Blackouts?
blackout,
soil outs, dirt outs. I don't know.
dust. They literally put that in the forecast, and those folks at the forecast offices, like out of Romeoville and Springfield, Illinois, they write a technical write up. It's like what we're thinking, what the modelers are saying. The younger guys tend to follow that. The older guys like me have their own input from it. But yeah, they remember that accident. I don't know if it was on 55. I believe it was on 557.
Yep,
where someone didn't put cover crops in. They started turning and tilling things over. The wind blew, the soil is dried out, and we had, just a multi-car, multi-vehicle accident on 57. So that is really key. And we had that a couple of days ago across the central and eastern areas of Illinois. Just the wind blows, dries it out, no matter how much rain you got, and there go visibility. So
they can just
the rain will be appreciated.
Pick up without warning. Yep, exactly.
Exactly. Those open rural areas in particular.
So we will check back with Greg on Friday and get you another report for the weekend and looking into next week. And of course, you can always watch Greg on This Week in Agribusiness on RFD TV and another 120 affiliated stations every weekend. So Greg, have a good midweek, and we will see you on Friday.
Absolutely, Sarah. Take care.